Hi guys, welcome to another Barb Stamps video. In this video, I am going to show you my Totally Techniques online club technique of the month. My Totally Techniques online club is a pretty cool thing that you're going to want to join. All you have to do is spend $30 a month with me in my online store at shoppingwithbarb.com using my monthly host code that you can find on my blog. Once you participate by ordering for 6 consecutive months, I will then gift you with a $30 gift certificate that you can spend on anything you want in our current catalogs. Your minimum order must be $30 and you must place the orders consecutively for 6 months in a row in order to get the gift certificate. If you want to be in the club, all you have to do is email me, barb@barbstamps.com. Let me know you want to be in the club and then start placing your orders. Each month, I will then send you the technique greeting card along with a sample card showing you a sample of the technique and the directions. I will also send you the link to this video in your email so that you can categorize them and keep them in a file if you so desire. I happen to keep all of my technique cards in this plastic case, and you can keep yours in whatever you might have handy around the house. So let me get the supplies for our card today and then we'll get started. We are going to be learning the Scrappy strip technique today, and this is the card that I'm going to be making. I have another card here, a little sneak peek at some upcoming paper from our celebration promotion, and so this is the one we're going to make in the video. So we are going to take some strips of designer series paper. This happens to be from a package of paper called Magic in This Night. And here are the patterns. It was actually the Halloween paper that Stampin' Up! Came up with in our holiday catalog. And while there are definitely some Halloween-ish patterns with the spiders and whatnot, a lot of the patterns aren't really Halloween-y. And so I've chosen this pattern here along with this gorgeous floral pattern here for my card. And then I've paired that with our black glimmer paper. Now this black glimmer paper is going to be, I believe it's going to be retiring at the end of this holiday catalog, so January 4th. But it's going to pair great with any of your pattern papers that have black in them. So I highly recommend you get some of this before it's gone. Now I used all my scraps of paper that I had making my cards for my girls that are participating this month. So if you don't have scraps, I just have some 1-inch strips of the patterned paper. And my layer is going to end up being 3 3/4 by 5. So I have a piece of cardstock here that's a little bit wider, that's about 4 inches by maybe 5 1/4-ish. So the only thing you really want to make sure is whatever size you decide your focal point is going to be, you need to cut your strips so that they are just about a little bit longer or the same size. Now I'm going to trim this down after I'm done, so it's not super important that my strips are longer because my paper is 4 inches. I'm going to cut my strips to 4 inches, but then I'm going to cut this whole thing down a little bit after we're done putting the strips on. So I'll just show you how I'm going to do this. So I'm going to cut these, first of all, at 4 inches. So I've got my paper trimmer here, and I'm going to cut these two pieces at 4 inches. Or yeah, here's my second piece. This will also be cut at 4. And we'll slide that up. And another 4. So I have 6 pieces now. You're going to want like 9 or 10 pieces of paper and glimmer paper in order to do the technique. So this piece of glimmer paper happens to be 4 inches wide. So now I'm going to start cutting it at an angle. And you can see that this is already sort of cut at an angle. So I'm just going to bring it in, slide it over on my trimmer, and I'm just going to cut a chunk off. So here's a piece here. Now I'm going to angle this one. Okay, I'll get rid of that. So I've got an angle here. And you can sort of see I have a little bit less space here, a little bit more space up there. So that's going to give me a little bit of a pattern strip. And then this one, I can turn my paper a little bit and cut that. So the glimmer paper is done. I have 3 pieces here. Now I need to cut these little guys. So I'm going to put them in here at the diagonal. And you can cut them as skinny or as thick as you wish. So here's my piece I'm going to keep. This one I'm going to trash. And like I said, you can just angle them however you want. I don't find that there's any wrong or right way to angle the pieces. And so let me just finish cutting these and we will get started with the placement of them. Okay, so here's my piece that I'm going to lay everything on. Here's all my little strips. And what I like to do first is I just kind of like to place them all on the paper, just so I can sort of see how I want them to look. And then I can see if I need to maybe cut anything a little bit differently or, you know, what have you. And so I'm just kind of off making these opposite. So like there's a skinny, you know, skinny down here, skinny up here, skinny, skinny. And when I say skinny, I mean the end of the piece of paper, you know, is a little bit skinnier than the other. One end is skinnier than the other. And so, like I said, you'll end up needing 9 or 10 strips, depending on how wide and how much spacing you leave between. So I am going to leave a little bit of space between each of these layers. And I like to use liquid glue for this. So I'm just going to run a little bead of liquid glue right here along the edge of my paper. And then I'm going to add my first strip right along the edge of the cardstock. Okay. And then I'm going to come next to that, not right next to it, but close, with my next layer of glue. Whoops, that one we don't want on yet. And then I'm going to place this next to it. And you can see I'm leaving a tiny bit of space. That might be about a 1/16 of an inch. And then we will put the next one on. And you're going to do this all across your paper. So it's actually a pretty simple technique once you know how to do it. There's nothing super hard about it. And it is really, really cool when you get done. People that you gift these to will think you're an amazing genius. All right, so I am going to finish placing these papers. All right, so I ended up using 9, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 9 pieces on this layer here. Okay, so it's all glued down. We're good to go there. So now I'm going to trim it down to the size that I want it. So the size that I want it is going to be about 3 5/8 by 5. And the reason I'm picking 3 5/8 is because I'm going to add the ribbon to the bottom. So you can see I've got this nice flush part here. Now you could just trim around all the edges and then cut it down, but I'm just going to go ahead and cut it down. I'm going to guesstimate here at first. So we'll cut that off. And then I said we're going to go to 5. We might actually do this. So I have a little bit on each edge. And now I'm going to come over to the 3 5/8. There we go. And then we'll finish off my 5 by taking a little bit off this other end here. Okay, so now that's what we have. So we can get rid of all of our little bits. All right, so I'm going to flip this over and I'm going to add some tear and tape adhesive along the bottom so that I can add my ribbon. And this ribbon is really cool for this particular thing that I'm going to be doing with it. I'm just going to be using just the edge of it. Okay, let me get that off. And I don't really have any fingernails, so I'm just going to kind of get the pokey end of my take your pick tool under there. And now you can see I have a little excess adhesive. I'm just going to fold that back onto itself. So then I'm going to take my ribbon, and I'm going to lay it out, and I am just going to put my cardstock on it. So I'm only going to see a layer of scallops underneath my card. So that is going to give me kind of a cool little embellishment. There we go. Get that nice and taut on there, stuck down real well, and then we are just going to cut off the excess ribbons. There we go. And then I have a 3 7/8 by 5 1/8 piece of basic black, and I'm going to add this layer to it. And I'm just going to use more liquid glue. I go back and forth between adhesives, so I've got a bunch here to choose from. And of course, you do need a bunch because you never know what you're doing. You can use different adhesives. Okay, so we'll get that pressed into place. There we go. And now I wanted to do my sentiments by heat embossing. And so what I would do is I would take my sentiment here and I'm going to ink it up in Versamark. So we'll just get that inked up in the Versamark. And I'm going to stamp it right here on my black piece. Okay. I'm going to bring in some white Stampin' Emboss powder. Whoops, no, flicked it everywhere. Get it all over my fingers. Flick that excess off. Okay, and then I would take this over to my heat tool and heat that up. But that's super loud and annoying, so I'm not going to actually do that on camera. But you can see that it is finished here. Okay, so there's my sentiment piece. Get those out of the way. And then I've got my Lovely Labels Pick-a-Punch here, and you can see that I have taken my sentiment piece and I've slid it in there and cropped off the end. Now I'm also going to do the same thing with a 1-inch piece of Rich Razzleberry. So I'm going to slide that in, and I'm going to get a little piece here. I'm going to snip that off. And then I'm going to add a little bit of glue to the back side of this black one. And I'm going to slide that on just so I have a tiny bit of color popping out from behind the black. I just find that kind of an interesting look if you have a little bit of extra color there. Kind of breaks up the black. Then we can take this and we can add it to the card. Squirt some glue on there and we'll add it to the card like this. Mine is a tiny bit longer than I would like it, so I'm going to hang it over the edge and then trim that off. Press down on that, and then you can easily trim off that excess, no problem. All right, and I have a 4 by 5 and a, or excuse me, a 5.5 by 8.5 piece of Pretty Peacock for my card base. And we can add this to the card with some dimensionals. I've got some dimensionals here. There we go. We'll go 5, so then we don't have any sagging in the middle. Peel off the paper backings. And then we'll just add this to our card base. Isn't that just an amazing looking card? I love the rich colors that this paper gives me. And the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a few rhinestones. So I happen to have a few rhinestones left here. And so I'm just going to add those to the card. Oops, didn't pick that one up. You can see my putty is almost out of my Take Your Pick tool. It's very close to the bottom there. And then we'll add one right here. So that's that. Now I'm going to add something to the inside. All right, so I've got a piece of white cardstock, and I'm just going to add a strip of paper to the inside of this. And this is an optional thing. You don't have to do this, but sometimes I find it's kind of cool, and it just adds a little bit to your card. And then we can just add that to the inside. And then if you wanted to add another sentiment, you certainly could. And we could. Here's a little cute sentiment in here that says, "Let's cheer you up." And we could stamp that in some Rich Razzleberry. Okay. And we'll try to eyeball that so it's in the center. There we go. And there you have it. The card is done. Let me bring in my other cards because I have a couple of cards samples to show you. So this was my inspiration piece. I received this in a swap. This uses the World of Good Designer Series paper. And you can see there's just all the different patterns are used in this one. This is one that I just made using the Flower and Field Designer Series paper. Now this is a sneak peek for Celebration that's coming up in January. This is one of the items you can earn for free with a $50 purchase out of my store. And look, isn't that just, the paper is just absolutely amazing. I'm loving it so much. So here's a card that I made using that and the black glimmer paper again. So that was fun. And then on the back side of my instruction card, my Scrappy Strips instruction card, I have used the Heartwarming Hugs paper from the holiday catalog along with the red foil sheets to create my piece there. So here are some more that I've gotten done. I'm working on them and I will be getting them out ASAP for everyone that's in my club. So thank you guys so much for watching. Give the video a thumbs up if you're enjoying it. Subscribe to my channel right down here in the corner and do your shopping with me at shoppingwithbarb.com. Thanks so much and have a great day.